Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. And today, what we're going to talk about is visitors, everybody's favorite subject in BNI Connect. This is going to wrap up our monthly series of webinars. This will be our 9th webinar this month, having to do with BNI Connect, where we talk about all sorts of things. We've talked about how to fill out your profile and how to connect with other members and how to submit online slips and how to dig deeper in the tools and reports in BNI Connect. We've had some leadership team ones as well. And the great news is we are going to do the whole thing again next month and the month after and the month after. So if you missed any of them and you want to catch any other webinars live, you are more than welcome to do so. Before we get started with today's content, just a couple of really quick housekeeping things. I'm going to go really fast because I know most of you guys have been here for a lot of these webinars so far this month. But if you are here again, that means that you are participating in a live webinar. So please, by all means, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, compliments, complaints, whatever it might be, please type those in. I'll see them pop up on my screen. I'd be happy to answer them as we're going through the material today. We do try to keep these to about 30 minutes or so, just with the content, because I know you guys all took time, some of you for the 5th time in the past couple of weeks, taking a lot of time out of your businesses. And I know you're going to go back to a mountain of emails and phone calls and voicemails and all that stuff, so I want to be respectful of your time as well. Now that said, again, this is what I do all day, every day, so please don't hold back. If you do have questions, I will stick on this webinar until every single one has been answered. And again, as this is the last webinar of this series, if there's any questions or anything that you have from any of the previous webinars, please do feel free. Ask those questions and I will do my best to answer them. We are recording this and it will be made available on our support site as well as on the YouTube channel. I usually try to get those up, within a couple of days-ish. So hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, I might have those up on the website. But we do also have all the previous months up there as well. But let's go ahead and get started. So today's webinar, again, we're going to talk about visitors, and that's one of the great things about BNI is we like to bring visitors to our chapters. Now we do concentrate a lot on growing the chapter, but I'm going to be honest with you. That's not the only reason to invite visitors to your chapters, because visitors can also be a great source of new clients for your chapter as well. So if you're only inviting just because you want to grow your chapter, you might be missing out on a lot of opportunities in order to just actually generate more revenue through BNI. And here's why. When a visitor comes to that chapter and they sit in that seat, and you guys go around and give your weekly presentations, what that visitor sees is a shopping mall. They're going around, they're listening to you guys talking, saying, wow, I didn't realize somebody in town did this or did that, and wow, I didn't realize, mortgage rates are at an all-time low. Maybe I do want to get a quote to refinance. Oh, wow, this guy seems like a really good handyman. Maybe I do want to get that spot in my roof repaired. And you know what? They might not be ready to make that decision today, but now you have a potential future client. And great thing about BNI Connect is that when we're registering our visitors, when we're talking to our visitors, when we're sending them the thank you follow-up emails, it's very much like a CRM system, and this will just become more and more advanced over time as well. So let's talk about this flow of visitors, right? So we have our visitor process, and essentially there are 3 steps to the visitor process. And by the way, this particular graphic here is part of a 53-page manual that I have written on visitors in BNI Connect. It's a real page turner. If you would like a copy of it, I am about to drop a copy of it into the downloads handouts section here in the BNI, the GoToMeeting webinar software. So if you'd like to download a copy of that, you can just grab it right from the thing here, or just shoot me an email later on, Jeremy at bni.com or support@bniconnect.com. But that said, there's 3 parts of this process. First, you can invite visitors from BNI Connect. So you're also going to be able to do that from the mobile app as well as of Monday. So excited for that. But you can invite visitors both through the mobile app and through BNI Connect right now. Again, you don't have to wait till Monday for that. The second part of that process is making sure that those visitors are pre-registered for the meeting. And this right here, this is the game changer. This is what absolutely gets more visitors through the door, is making sure that they are pre-registered for the meeting. And that can either be done by the visitor themselves, they can RSVP from the invitation, or you can register for them. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, the third part of this process is the actual follow-up, making sure that the visitors are marked as attended, making sure that they're entered into BNI Connect correctly, because this will send a follow-up email to them and thank them for coming to the meeting. It'll also make it available so that they can be converted to a member later. So let's take a look at this process. So I'm going to go back over to BNI Connect here, and let's take a look at this first step, which is inviting a visitor to a meeting. So let me flip over to BNI Connect here, and here we are. So let's say that I wanted to invite somebody to a meeting. I'm going to switch to my test area here in Antarctica, and I'm going to go to my Shiver region because I don't want to accidentally register anybody for my own personal chapter. But I'm going to go to the Shiver region here, the Brr chapter. Now, to get to the visitor invitation, again, we do have to go to those scary places beyond the home screen. And for this, we're going to go to the Operations menu. So if you go to Operations, and then we have Create Email, since we want to send an email out. The second thing that you'll see on the screen here is Email Visitor Invitation. And this is our opportunity to send an invitation to an upcoming chapter meeting. There's a very important thing to this, though. That is BNI is not a spam organization. BNI is also not a cold call organization, right? One of the very, very basic things that we teach in BNI is that the bare minimum for a referral, is that somebody is expecting your call. Somebody is willing to take your call. That is the bare minimum for a referral, right? This should be treated the same way. Essentially, you are referring this visitor to your chapter, right? This is bringing a new connection, a new person, a new networking opportunity to the people in your chapter. So essentially, this is a referral. You are referring the BNI experience to this person. Therefore, this should not be sent out lightly. It should not be sent out blindly. This invitation should be the follow-up to a verbal invitation. So you see somebody at a networking event, you're out there at a chamber event, or you're out there wherever it might be, and you say to somebody, hey, I'd love to invite you to one of my chapter meetings. Sure, I would love to come to one of your chapter meetings. Great, I'm going to send you an invitation. Please be sure to RSVP. That is the proper way to do this process, right? I do get asked quite often, well, how can we bulk import a bunch of email addresses and send out a bunch of invites? Again, no, that is not what this was intended for. This was intended to be the follow-up to a verbal invitation. So let's click on Email Visitor Invitation. And we just have a couple of things that we need to fill out here. We got to fill out their name, their company name, their email address, and a personal message. So let's say that I'm going to invite, I don't know, Victor Visitor, right? And his company name is vicviz.com, and his email address. So vic@vicviz.com.net. All right, so the next part is the personal message. This personal message will appear at the top of the actual email that is sent out. So it's kind of like the intro to this email. So if you'd like to put a person, this is completely optional, by the way, but this is the way to customize this and make sure that the person knows that this is actually coming from you, right? So go ahead and put in a personal message, something like, hey, it was great meeting you at the chamber event. Here is the invite. I promised. See you next Thursday. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and click send. That is going to take that information. It's going to wrap it up, put a nice little bow on it. It is going to put that into an email and immediately send it out. Now you will receive a carbon copy of that. So an email will go out, you will be carbon copied, and I should get my copy just about any second now. And here it is here. So this is my email that I just got. And this is what the email looks like, right? So it says, let's zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see, okay. How will you grow your business? Hi, Victor. How are you planning to build your business? You know, again, it has my personal message here at the top. It was great meeting you. See you next Thursday. It briefly describes what BNI is all about. We just updated it with some new numbers, 210,000 members around the world. That is a big network. 70 countries, $9.3 billion passed. It has your chapter information. Where did you meet? When did you meet? What's the address? You don't have to think of all these things in order to put them into the email. This is what the member gets right away. So they can go back and they can learn more about BNI. They can go check out other websites, check out our Facebook account, all of that. Now, again, this is written with a visitor in mind, usually people that have not seen BNI before. The best part about this now is that there is this RSVP link, which now brings us really into the second part of this discussion, and that is getting the visitors to pre-register for the meeting, getting the visitors to pre-register for the meeting. This right here is what changes the whole thing about visitors. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever invited a visitor to a meeting and that visitor didn't show up? I'm sure you have, because you know what? This happens all over the place. It has happened to me more times than I care to admit. Now, one of the reasons, and this is my opinion and my experience here, one of the reasons I think that happens a lot is because we tend to very casually invite visitors, right? We'll be out at that networking event, and you got to remember, you know, most networking events are not like BNI meetings. Most networking events are a big room full of people, usually either too few people for a really, really big room or too small of a place with a whole bunch of people jammed in like cattle, right? That's what a typical networking event is, and you meet somebody there. Yeah, I'd like to invite you to my networking meeting. And they say, great, that's awesome. I'd love to come and meet more people. When is it? Oh, it's on Thursday, 7 o'clock. Awesome, great, I'll see you there. Great, see you then. Oh, by the way, that's 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll see you there, Thursday, 7, right. And then, you know, a couple of days goes by and they're getting ready to go and the alarm clock goes off at, oh God, 30 in the morning. And what is that visitor thinking? They're like, well, what was I thinking? It's this early in the morning and I'm going to go to another networking event? These guys are crazy, right? And you got to remember that this is a visitor. They've never been to a BNI meeting before. They don't realize that we have an agenda. They don't realize it's not just going to be a room packed full of people trying to come up with awkward conversation. They're going to get a chance to introduce themselves and talk about their business and, you know, really get to meet a room full of people. But again, they don't know this because they haven't experienced BNI yet. And that means that they're just turning over. They're saying, you know what? This is going to be a giant room full of people. Nobody's going to miss me. And they hit the snooze button and they go back to bed. Meanwhile, you're standing there at the door waiting to welcome them and introduce them to people, and they haven't shown up. So this registration piece, however, this is what takes it from a casual invitation to a more formal invitation. It changes the mindset of the visitor. That is what's ultimately important here. So what happens is, let's say that this visitor, they get this invitation, right? I'm going to go back to BNI Connect here. So they get this invitation, and they can click this RSVP button, right? So if I click this RSVP button, that takes me to a registration page. So now I can register for this upcoming meeting. It brings me right to the BNI chapter. So I can click on the visit date, and I can only choose future dates, right? I can only choose the day of the meeting in the future. So I can choose whether it's next week or the week after. They register for that. They type in their own information. Now again, they're typing this all in, so now it's not a matter of reading the chicken scratch off of the sign-in sheet. They actually know their own information, so they can type it in really, really quickly and easily. So Victor Visitor here, Visitor, and his company name is VicViz is phone number, mobile number, and email. Now I'm going to put in an actual real email address here so you can see what happens next. Oops, let me get back in there at gmail.com so you guys can see what happens. They choose their industry. They can now see that there's tons of different types of people that are in BNI here. They can choose or type in who invited them. And they do have to type a CAPTCHA code because we don't want spam bots registering for a bunch of our meetings. And then they click submit, right? Now some cool stuff really starts to happen. What happens is they immediately get an email saying, hey, thank you so much for registering for this meeting, right? So let me get this. So here we go. They say, congratulations. Hey, Victor, thank you so much for your interest in BNI. And here is the part that turns the whole thing around. You are officially confirmed. You are officially confirmed to visit at this date, at this time. Now they are obligated to go to this meeting. Or at the very least, when that reminder comes 2 days before the meeting, because they will get a reminder as well, they, at the very least, they call up and they say, listen, I don't know what I was thinking. I have an appointment, I have a conflict, whatever it is, which gives you an opportunity to say, nah, don't be scared, come to the meeting, right? This is a game changer. Now, on top of that, you, if you're on the leadership team of your chapter, you're a visitor host, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, visitor host, or a director consultant for the chapter, you will get a notification as well saying, hey, congratulations, you have a visitor coming to this chapter. Make sure that you welcome them. Make sure that you make them feel at home. Why don't you get a name badge for them? Right? And it also has all of the visitor's contact information. Now they can do something like give that visitor a call and say, hey, you know what, Victor, I am so excited for you to be here. You're in the travel and cruises and tours. That's awesome. We have a wedding planner that has been looking for somebody in your industry for a long time. I can't wait to introduce you. I look forward to seeing you bring lots of business cards, right? You can make that visitor feel like they are part of the group before they ever even show up. And that's what this is all about. Right, so now that is how a visitor can register themselves, but as we know, not all visitors are tech savvy or may not want to register themselves. If you get a confirmation and a visitor says, hey, you know what, I'd love to come, can you just register me? Yes, you can register them. Back under the operations menu, under this manage visitors, you'll see a register prospective visitor before a meeting, right? Before a meeting, you can register them. And again, if you've ever filled out a form, it's pretty much the same exact form that is out there on the public site. You're just filling it out here in BNI Connect. A couple additional things that you can fill in, like their address and additional phone numbers and fax number, but essentially it is the exact same thing. If you fill it in BNI Connect, the exact same email process happens. So they'll get that notice saying you have now been officially registered. You will get the email as the leadership team. They'll also get that reminder 2 days before. Of course, them RSVPing themselves is just a little bit more effective, but this is an important step if they don't. Right now, because there's always 5 different ways to do everything, anybody that might be out there on the internet, for example, every region has their own regional website. In Antarctica, it happens to be antarcticreferrals.com. And if they're out there, they're looking for a chapter, they check out the chapter map and they're going through and browsing and say, hey, this BNI Burr chapter looks pretty interesting. They can see the roster, who's in the chapter. And of course, they can click this button here, visit this chapter. This is the exact same form that is shown when they click the RSVP button. Again, it all starts that same process. And now from a visitor host perspective, now there's a report in the system that shows you all the visitors that are registered for that upcoming meeting. If I go to the reports, I can now see all of those upcoming visitors. As a visitor host after the meeting, I can go in and just click, yes, this person attended, rather than have to go in and type all that information out. So a little bit of work by the individual ends up saving your leadership team boatloads of time. especially after something like a visitor's day, where you have, maybe 20, 30, or 40 visitors that are showing up to the meeting, right? So in a nutshell, that is the process. Inviting the visitor, you pre-register the visitor, and then you have the follow-up afterwards. But, the real question is, well, does this actually work, right? All great in theory, but when you put it into practice, does it actually provide any results? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. And here's how I can tell you, because as I might have mentioned on other webinars, I am a member. By the way, I've been a member for 15 years, so I've been around, and we've been doing this visitor process for 15 years, and only in the last couple of years have we started to integrate BNI Connect into it. Now, I can tell you that our traditional results with visitors days are usually pretty good, but it always worked off of kind of like a 10% thing. So what happens is, you go through the visitors day process. And by the way, I believe in the visitors day process. So a couple of years ago, when I was the president of my chapter, just about the time that this was getting rolled out, this new visitor process was getting rolled out, we were going to put on a visitors day. So we followed the process. We did the letters. We did the phone calls. The only thing I did slightly different, and again, I didn't change the process. I just added this registration step to it. So I said, okay, great. We're gonna invite our visitors and everything. When they say that they're going to come, members, register your visitor for the meeting. That's it. That's all I want you to do. I want you to register the visitor in BNI Connect. Because traditionally, what would happen is, we'd go around the room, week before the visitors day, the president stands up in front of the room and says, hey guys, awesome, we're having our visitors day next week. How many visitors do we have coming? And part of the accountability is going around the room saying, okay, well, John, how many visitors do you have coming? Oh, I have one visitor. Mary, how many visitors do you have coming? Oh, I have 2 visitors. Christy, how many visitors? I have 5 visitors. Okay, Bob, how many? I don't have any yet, but I promise I'll have one for next week. And you go around the room, you do this head count, and my chapter is 48 people. By the time we were done with our head count, it's like, wow, there's going to be like 150 people here next week. Now, all my previous experience doing this, I know that about 10% of what people say are going to show up actually do show up. So I'm thinking 150, we're lucky if we're going to get 15 to 20 here, right? So, I said, well, but I added this other step into the process, and I said, well, let's register our people in BNI Connect. So we had gone around the room. So I go to BNI Connect and I'm like, well, there's going to be like 100 people in there, right? No. So when I went into BNI Connect, there were 6 people registered. 6. We have a little bit of a discrepancy here. They told me we're going to have 150 people here next week. In reality, 6 people have committed to coming to the meeting. So I put this little email together. This email is not part of the process. It's not from BNI Connect. I created this email on my own. But I used a lot of BNI Connect stuff to do it, by the way. So this is the email my chapter function in BNI Connect. Right? This is just a count from the report, and I copied and pasted the report, and then I provided them a link to go to the public website if they wanted to and register their visitors, because I didn't want to hear any excuses. Oh, I don't have my BNI Connect login. It's too confusing. I don't know where to go. Fine, just go to the public website. Everybody has access to it, and you can register them right there. So I sent this email out, and within hours, my email starts going ding, 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 ding. You've got mail, and it was all these visitor notices coming in. I was starting to get excited because after that first day, we went from 6 visitors to 21 visitors. So I wanted to celebrate this. So I put this email together again and I sent it out to the chapter. Hey, chapter, 5 days, 21 registered visitors. From there, 4 days, 26 registered visitors. 3, 34 registered visitors. 2 days, 39 registered visitors. 13 hours until our visitors day. We had 45 registered visitors for our meeting. Now again, going by the old philosophy, we're thinking, well, at least it's a little bit more realistic than them telling me that we had 150 people coming. Now we have 45, well, maybe we'll get 5 to 10 visitors. we had 42 of the 45 people show up to the meeting. 42 of the 45 people. And the 3 people that didn't show up, they called and apologized. They said, I'm so sorry, we can't make it this week. Can we come back next week? To which, of course, we said, no, this was a one-time only offer. Nah, I'm just kidding. We of course, we welcomed them back the next week. We ended up with 6 applications altogether, and there were 3 more that were then given later. We ended up with 8 new members from that meeting. That was a lot better than having, 3 or 4 people show up to the meeting. So of course, if the process works, you do it again. We did that same process, about a year later. We ended up with 30 registered visitors, 25 showed up. I can tell you we ran this process again about 6 months ago in my chapter, and we had 50 people show up with only 48 registrations. How does that happen? I'm telling you, the process really, really works, but you have to follow the process. All right, so we're a couple of minutes before the bottom of the hour. What I'd like to do is to open this up to questions. Does anybody have any questions about this process, about inviting, about registering visitors, or really anything else in BNI Connect? As I mentioned, this is the last of our 5-part series here, actually our 9-part series here for the month of April. This is our last webinar of the month. We're taking a week off from webinars next week to rest my voice and to release that mobile application. It's going to be so awesome. And then we're going to start this right back up in May, and we will do the entire series of webinars all over again. So if you missed any of these and you want to see a live presentation, please join us next month. A good referral for me is to please let your chapter members know about these webinars. If you found them helpful, hopefully somebody else will as well. So that would be a good referral for me. And of course, the recordings will be available just as soon as I can get them converted and up onto YouTube. All right, any questions at all? Any questions whatsoever? All right, so I don't see any questions. I guess after all of these webinars, everything is just crystal clear. All right, we do have one. Let's see. Brian says, how do you register a replacement versus a visitor? And I assume by replacement you mean a substitute, right? So somebody that's substituting for you at the meeting. So here's what you can do is, and this is by no means a standard practice. What I do with mine is I just register them as a visitor. So I'll register them because I want my substitute, especially, for example, I have to travel next week to go give a presentation and I'm going to miss my meeting. So I'm going to be lining up my substitute in the next couple of days. I will register them as a prospective visitor so that they get that reminder 2 days before, and also that the chapter knows that they're coming. And what I'll do is in the invited by field, I'll put substitute for Jeremy Walsh. The trick is we still want their information in the database. However, what we have to make sure doesn't happen, and this is where a conversation has to happen, or during training with your vice president, is to make sure that they don't get marked as having attended as a visitor. And we don't want that credit to go to the POMS report, because that's what skews the conversion rates and other things that were measured on in things like the traffic lights reports. So does that answer your question, Brian? Awesome, awesome. Robert just said, great job. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for being here. I actually recognize your name from, I want to say 3 or 4 of these at least. So thank you so much for being on like the entire series. That is awesome. I recognize a couple of other names on here as well that have been with me for the past couple of weeks for all these webinars. So thank you so much. Yep, Regina, same there. Thanks for that tip on substituting. Awesome. All right. Any other questions whatsoever? Catherine, who was also on a special webinar that we did just an hour ago, is back for this one. She says, Ed and herself say thank you, and thank you so much for being here. And Christy says, good luck with the app launch. Yeah, remember to download the BNI Connect mobile app on Monday. So when you wake up Monday morning, hopefully it'll be in the App Store by then. Please go ahead and download it, and you can start inviting your visitors as well directly through the app. You'll be able to pass your referrals and one-to-ones and all of that directly through there as well. So, all right, everyone. I think that's it for questions. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in the future. If there's anything at all I can do to help, support@bniconnect.com, or remember to click that question mark in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect, and that's how you can find myself and the entire support team. In the meantime, happy connecting.